Hello everyone, my name is Chris and I play Shalva Tharu. Shalva is a Brujah. He is a fairly short, about 5'7", man of Nepalese origin, pretty wiry, tends to dress in pretty relaxed stuff, like a cap, some denims. He's a mechanic to trade, and his cover identity at least. He does have another identity other than his kindred self. He's been around a while. Shalva was embraced at the end of the 19th century in Glasgow. He was originally from Nepal. However, his father, who was a Ghurka with the British Army, had brought him over after an honourable discharge. He'd done very well for himself, and the family started off quite well. Unfortunately, his father was eventually murdered by racists. That led Shalva on a very angry path of retribution, and eventually it led to him accepting the offer of an embrace and becoming a member of the kindred. In the party, Shalva is one of the more kind of physical characters. He gets stuck in with a fight, although he's not necessarily a particularly aggressive or violent person unless he feels it's really needed. He's somebody who has something of a kind of philosophical leaning. He believes in thinking his actions through, and he's got some morals to him. His predator style is consensualist, and he is the kind of person that would be bothered by letting the beast take over. He's somebody that tries to resist that and tries to cling to what remains of his humanity. In terms of what's important to him, mostly it's his family. He has a granddaughter, Ihane. She's 26. She lives in Glasgow and knows of him as an uncle. She's not aware of who he truly is to her or his real age. He also has a good friend, Arush, who is kind of a high up in the Hindu temple. Shalva's faith is important to him, although being as he is, a kindred, he perhaps doesn't believe in quite the same way he used to, but it's an important part of who he is to him, and he hasn't let go of that. He also has a friendship with a man named William Docherty, who's 72, who is actually a grandson of one of his father's murderers. After slaying the men who murdered his father, Shalva took some time to reflect and felt some measure of guilt for the consequences of his actions, the consequences that had occurred for those men's families, because after all, you can't spill blood without it affecting people. So he looked in on them, did something to help them, albeit in a kind of obfuscated way, so they didn't know it was him. But further down the line, he eventually met William in person, and they struck up a friendship, as William is not like his ancestor at all. More recently, later on in the chronicle, Shalva has encountered Zuri, who is a thin-blood kindred, and he's noticed a resemblance in her to an ex-partner of his. She has been persecuted because she doesn't belong to any of the clans, and some kindred see her as not being a true vampire because her blood isn't as strong as others. She hasn't formed a connection to any one clan and doesn't have the protection that being a member of a clan would offer. Zuri has been hunted by certain people, and she struggles with her condition. She's not somebody who's taken easily to being a kindred. Shalva naturally has a kind of desire to help people. It's something that fits with his values, but with Zuri in particular, the resemblance that she shows to his ex-partner that he knew in his mortal life has affected him quite deeply, and he wants to find out more about who she is and to try and help her for that reason. At the moment, he can't really hold a conversation with her because of her mental condition. She's in a state of extreme agitation and frenzy, really. He's not entirely sure what link she has to him beyond this resemblance that he's noted, but he does want to help her. In terms of the disciplines that Shalva has, he has a fair bit in celerity, potence, and fortitude. and as things go on, he learns aspects to be able to sense the unseen, much as Joe did. In terms of the Brujah tend to be the rebels of the vampire world. They tend to challenge authority and anything they see as being unfair or a misuse of power. Their bane is that they find it harder to resist frenzy than other clans. They can fly off the handle easily. Shalva tends to lean towards the more kind of Hellenistic sect of the Brujah, the more kind of philosophical and reflective side rather than the kind of combative rebels. And I think that's about it for him, really. So, thanks for your time. My name is Shalva Tharu. Been around in Glasgow quite a while now. Maybe not by kindred standards, but, well, it's been over a century, so seems like a long time to me. It's funny looking back, thinking how I got to where I am today. I suppose, honestly, it really began with my father being murdered by a bunch of racist cunts. I found them, and I made bloody sure they paid. It wasn't enough, though. Didn't bring him back. Nothing ever will. I kept fighting. Kept trying to find someone to punish. Trying to make somebody pay for what they'd done to me and my family. Eventually, I came to the attention of my sire, Kavya. My faith's always been important to me, and the temple, well, let's say it has more than its public face, and there's a number of very wise beings within the temple, Kavya being one of them. She saw something in me, some potential, and offered me the chance to keep going longer than I would be able to otherwise, to not only stay young and fit, potentially forever, but to use the power of the blood to take the fight to those that needed stopped. She was honest with me. She didn't sugarcoat it. She told me about the hunger, the beast that you let inside yourself if you accept the blood and the embrace. I decided it was worth it, a price worth paying. Sometimes I wonder, but so far I've managed to keep a leash on it, for the most part. If ever the day comes when I lose that, then maybe it's time to see the sunshine again. But for now, I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to fight to protect those I care about, and for what I think's right. There's an awful lot of bastards in this world we live in. There's an awful lot of fucking evil things in the shadows, and some of the stuff that goes on is just awful. I'm just one person in the midst of all this. There might not be that much I can do, but I can do something, and I'm going to keep trying for as long as I can.